And we are here to recap the month of August with our monthly weather roundup. I'm meteorologist Joe Martucci. He is New Jersey State Climatologist Dr. Dave Robinson. Dr. Robinson, I see that we have really good taste in clothing.
Yeah, we both got the uniform note this morning, right?
Yes, yes, yeah. We got the blue ones here to celebrate. I don't know. What do we celebrate that's blue? The ocean? It's Labor Day weekend?
Or the bright blue skies we've had over the past week or so.
Sure. Yeah, we can go with that. When you popped into the chat or into the Zoom here, I was like, maybe I should change. You said I need to be the one that changed because you're at work, you're at Rutgers. I got my closet a few feet over here this way, so I didn't do it. I guess I was a little lazy. I said I'll just leave it. Great minds dress alike. We'll go with
There
that.
you go. There you go.
Yeah. So how's it been going the past month? What's going on? Is it August quiet time of year for you? What's new and exciting?
Oh, a lot. It's quiet in a way, but it's busy every day. Between our network and the bureaucracy and the proposals and the grant management and yeah, there's always something going on that has me working day and night.
Got it.
Sounds horrible. It's not. It's uh it's a wonderful career, but it's an awful lot, even in the month of August. Even
Yeah.
even in an upcoming semester when I will not have any teaching responsibilities, still busy.
Right. After, being at school at Rutgers for so many years, is there just still something about like late August, early September? It just kind of feels like, I don't know, life is coming back again to campus, or is it just kind of like old hat at this point?
No, no, there's always something fresh and new about seeing the students moving in this week, seeing the kickoff to classes on Tuesday. You see that throughout K through 12 as well as into the college ranks. Hear people, freshmen moving onto campus, moving away from home the first time, trying to find their way around this maze of a campus
Yeah.
that Rutgers is, which buses to take and where classrooms even in my building, which was designed by committee or a drunken architect, people are constantly asking directions. So there's something new and fresh about that. And when I really, really missed it was during the COVID. This was the safest place to be during COVID. I'd come in here once, twice a week. I'd see no one for hours. I'd drive across campus to pick up our department mail over on Route 1, and it was just so sad.
Yeah.
It's okay if it's in the middle of the summer,
Yeah.
but not when it was in the middle of October or March.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that vibrancy that, you really enjoy.
Yeah, you said students getting lost, and you're making me think. I think I'm old enough now to say I remember when we all had paper maps when I started at Rutgers. We had the paper maps, and I remember like my 2009 freshman year at Rutgers, like trying not to look at it too long because I didn't want to look like a loser. I just wanted to get a sneak peek in just enough so I knew where I was going. And I think I had that with me like all freshman year long. But now with obviously Google Maps and everything else. I'm sure Rutgers map is on the Rutgers app somewhere. Um, no one will ever know if you're looking for directions or not.
Oh, but they still ask directions, especially
People are
in,
so people are still asking for directions.
oh my gosh, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. And more in the building. Although someone went and mapped out this building even. It's a
Well, they
lot.
should because that building, to your point, not the easiest one to get around.
Yep, yep, yep. I claim they find skeletons in different parts of this building where people couldn't figure their way through it.
No, I
And if
agree with
you're
that.
listening to this and you know Rutgers, you know exactly what building I'm sitting in.
Yes, that's
Lucy
absolutely
Stone Hall.
Lucy Stone Hall. Yeah, maybe one day it'll be a new Lucy Stone Hall. We'll see.
We'll see.
Maybe after your time. We'll see. All right, let's get into the weather here. Talk about the month of August. I have to start off with Hurricane Erin. Now, here's the thing: if you don't live at the Jersey Shore, Erin was really nothing. It was a little breezy and cloudy, right? But for people at the coast, and I'm here focusing on the shore, but we do talk about all of New Jersey in this episode. But the coast was just battered by this storm. I mean, it was, I think, at its closest 400 miles away in terms of the eye of the storm, but we had significant beach erosion in spots. We had coastal flooding for days. And speaking of that coastal flooding, some parts of the Jersey Shore saw the highest summertime tide on record for their gauges here. So, the reason why I say summertime is because, well, one, that's true, but two, if you are someone who comes to the shore only during the summer, and there's a lot of people who are like that, you never experienced something like this before. It peaked on August 21st. We had that day breaking waves 10 to 15 feet. I had reports of that. All the beaches were closed. And then with the flooding, if you were in, I got this right here, if you were in Absecon, Atlantic City, Sea Isle City, Avalon, Stone Harbor, and it's Cape May. It's not really Cape May. It's Lower Township on the Delaware Bay. It was the highest during the summer on record. And then if you weren't that, you were pretty much having the highest summertime tide since Irene back in 2011. And hopefully you weren't there either, because there were mandatory evacuations for parts of for the shore at that time. So, super impressive. A lot of these places, especially LBI South, in the top 10 for highest tide of all time. It was the 4th highest ever in Stone Harbor and in Cape May Harbor. I just threw out a lot of information at you there, but that's pretty significant.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, that it was an impressive event, and it just shows you. I don't even know if I'd call this sideswiped by Erin, because it was so far away. But
Yeah.
we have to remember that was a large storm in terms of its spatial dimensions. We haven't had something with that kind of spatial dimension, I think, since Sandy was the hurricane that was morphing into a nor'easter, which was different dynamics in this storm.
Right.
Irene became a Cat 5 hurricane briefly northeast of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, and it was tight and small at that point. But then it reached a different type of environment, warm surface, sea surface temperatures, and whatever, and it allowed it to spread its wings. Now, as it did that, the core of it lost its super strength, but the energy of that storm just spread out. I think there were hurricane force or tropical storm force winds at least 200, 250 miles
Yeah, something like that.
away from that, which put it near the Jersey coast. We had only 2 of our coastal stations gusted over 40. Atlantic City Marine gusted to 46. And
I think Seagirt was the other, wasn't it?
yeah, no, they gusted to 39.
Oh, okay.
I think it was Harvey Cedars gusted to 43. So that's not particularly remarkable.
No.
It wasn't. So it wasn't so much what was happening in our atmosphere along the coast. It was happening with the oceans, and that was quite an event for the coast.
Yeah, and it just adds to the fact that, it's usually the water, not the wind, that causes the most destruction with any kind of tropical system. And, we were at the high end of what we call moderate stage flooding. At that's something that, yes, moderate stage, we do get that during the year, but usually it's during nor'easter season, right? October, December, February. And then on top of that too, again, we were at the higher end of that, and this was a top 10 tide for a number of locations. Now, if you were in Monmouth County or even Northern Ocean, it was still it was a high tide. Don't get me wrong. But because the winds were from the Northeast and Long Island's to the Northeast and New England, it doesn't have as much of a runway, for lack of a better word, to push that water on shore. Actually, as a whole, and correct me if I'm wrong, but usually it's southeasterly winds that are going to bring the most widespread flooding to the shore. So, this was, it was super impressive. Like I said, beaches were closed for, 2 days for most of the shore. In some places, they were closed for 3 days. And then we had these rip currents that began, I'm looking at my calendar, I think on the 19th, Tuesday the 19th. And it really wasn't until yesterday, the 28th, we're recording this on the 29th, that the rip currents finally settled down. There was a lot of wave energy with this. It was again, if you're inland, if you were west of the Parkway, nothing really to talk about. But if you were in a beach town or along the barrier islands, yeah, I mean, it was significant. Margate seemed to be kind of the peak of all this, where they had, let me see, what do I have here? They had a gas leak, they had an electrical fire, they had 50 water rescues. Although, as you and I talked about, some of those water rescues, it was nice young firefighter helping out the old women at the restaurant. Very nice. Needed to be done. Maybe not necessarily the water rescue that you would think of off the top of your head.
No, and fortunate for that. Maybe it gives them a little practice. I'll tell you what worries me the most coming out of this storm, and I'm not a no huge news to many people, is it has left the coast, the shore vulnerable to future storms this fall.
Yeah,
Down in Ocean City, for instance, where the beach was just clobbered
yeah,
with erosion. So that defense was washed away with this storm, not to be there for subsequent storms. So that's what I come out of this event with the most concern of what could come further down the road, because we're not even at the peak of the traditional Atlantic tropical season, hurricane season yet. That comes in the next 2 weeks.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You don't want the beaches in rough shape going to nor'easter season. And there's,
Or even
you
then,
can
yeah.
read, yeah, I mean, and you can read news reports about beach replenishment and lack of funds as we go into next year, possibly. Looks like that's being worked on right now, and we're really happy for that. But yeah, I mean, not a great way to end summer in terms of being like this. I mean, this kind of reminds me, and last point on this, kind of like Matthew. What was it, 2016 Hurricane Matthew, where a lot of the beaches were chewed up. It was right around Labor Day weekend. It's similar to me. It kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's pretty early to be to the M storm. I mean, we're up to F
yeah,
because there was one following Erin, but we've had 6 storms, but only one hurricane. But it happened to be a major hurricane, and there's
yeah,
an energy number put on the season, individual storm season. We're always already up to 40% of the annual tropical energy, and it's mostly all from Erin because it was a huge storm, a
yeah,
long-lasting storm.
yeah,
So we'll see. The Hurricane Center still expects a normal to above normal season with more major hurricanes to come, more hurricanes, more tropical storms. There's little chance of this season coming in below average in terms of the number of storms. But as we say all the time, Joe, it only takes one. It
yep,
only takes one.
yep,
Andrew, back in the early
yeah,
90s,
yeah,
that came right about now, and it was the A storm, the first of the season.
mm-hmm,
And look what happened.
yeah,
Uh, so everyone needs to be on their guard. I think the coastal folks breathe a little sigh of relief come Labor Day,
yeah,
because they don't have to deal with the evacuations such as Irene
yeah,
back in 2011 with Sandy. It was more convincing the locals to leave, but there were far fewer of them. So the local officials, I think, are happy that the season we're getting by with just what Erin
yeah.
provided.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that Sandy, right, with the evacuations of Sandy, it was actually just like a summer Sunday in terms of the amount of traffic leaving, especially Cape May and Atlantic County, because to your point, there's less people there. It was really similar to that. All right, let's really good conversation on Aaron. Let's get into maybe more of what's happening in our air or in the sky here, and temperatures. The Climate Prediction Center, kudos to them. They were forecasting a cooler than average August. I know it's August 29th, but we're gonna be there. It's you can tell me whatever you want statewide for the numbers. I know it's a little early, but it's a month more like September in the month of August that we had, and I think some people are very happy about that.
Although I remind people there were 9 consecutive days in August where some places hit 90 degrees or higher. But that was it. We
Yeah,
started cool, and I know you've got numbers about
yeah,
that,
yeah,
and we finished cool. But in the middle of the month, there were 9 very warm days. And that balanced things out a little. But yeah, we're going to finish 2.5 degrees below the 1991 to 2020 average. It's going to be the coolest August since 2014. And if the numbers come in, it could even drop early. It's been longer since we had that, but all the numbers right now, 2014 was a little cooler. But and if you think, oh, one of the coolest on record, whatever, it's going to rank somewhere around 40th coolest of the last 130. So there've been 40 cooler Augusts, but
Right.
most of them occurred in the 20th century,
Right.
not in the last 25 years.
Yeah.
So we're used to summers being warmer. Remember, July was the sixth warmest on record, and June was the ninth warmest of 131 years. So we were on pace for the warmest summer or close to the warmest summer on
Yeah.
record. Oop, not now.
Not
We'll probably
anymore.
be in the top 20, 25
Yeah.
because of June and July. So we really caught a break. And you're right. It's like autumn arrived a couple weeks early.
Yeah, and I'm not a fan of this, Dr. Robinson. Not my favorite. I like this weather, especially the last week of August. Nice weather. Not saying it's bad, but I want this in like mid-October, late October. That would be very nice to me.
Well, in mid late October, we've been in upper 70s and 80s. Come on, that's near record.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Maybe I just live in the wrong place. Maybe I just live in the
Yeah,
wrong
I
place.
think you're hoping for a little bit too much, but
Yeah.
it was nice. It had been a hot, and a humid early summer
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
midsummer. So it was nice that the Northeast really caught a break this month, although northern New England was above normal.
Oh,
It's southern New England down into the southeast that's coming in below normal.
oh,
So
go figure.
it does vary. And we'll
Gotcha.
talk more about precip later, but
Yeah, we are. Yeah, yeah. You're segueing me into break, which is great. We're gonna take a break on this. We'll come back. We'll talk about that chilly specific start to August. We'll talk about rain or lack thereof, and more on the monthly weather roundup. Thanks to the New Jersey Coastal Coalition, your flood insurance bills are lower and your streets safer from the reality of flooding. Since beginning in 2013, we build more resilient shoreline communities. Our member towns develop and share in best practices that anticipate future concerns and create flooding solutions. From our town-specific free web app for flooding information to our weekly tidal flooding talk show, we focus on flooding 24/7. Visit www.njcoastalcoalition.com for more. Welcome back to our monthly weather roundup. I'm here with my weather dad, New Jersey State Climatologist Dr. Dave Robinson. All right, let's just continue on with the cooler than average August. I did want to bring this up. It was a chilly start to August. It was actually from the 1st to the 11th at ACY Airport, the coldest start on record, beating out the previous record from 1964. It was kind of a weird record because AC Marina was 19th coldest, Long Branch was 8th coldest. So, I don't know. Maybe it was just something at the airport. But the Weather Service did say, in terms of it being consistently below average, not by how much it was, but just the fact it was below average, was something we haven't seen in a few decades. I think it was I don't have the number, but I think it was from the 90s. Either way, it was a chilly start to August, and it was because our winds were persistent east to northeast. High pressure was in New England, which, by the way, helped also cause a really warm ocean for that time as well. And I think we've talked about this before. It's that conundrum where it's like cool land, warm ocean, hot land, cold ocean. We don't have to get into that again, but yeah, it was a chilly start and a chilly end to August.
yeah, it's like you flipped the switch. We had that big storm system come through on the 31st of July, and it was very warm and muggy. And that came through by morning on the 1st, and bam, we had this refreshing northerly flow, which helped to keep New England warmer with the high sitting over them. We got the more, as you mentioned, the maritime flow. And then that shut off, bam, and we had those 9 days of excessive warmth. And then that switch flipped, not with major rain, unfortunately,
No.
actually. And we went into this latter part. So it's been bookended, cool, comfortable air, bookended in the middle with some very warm and occasionally humid air. But overall, we mentioned we're
Yeah.
coming below average for temperature.
Yeah. All right. Just want to tie that up. All right. Let's get into precipitation, rainfall, or maybe I should say lack thereof. You're going to talk about this. We have to be very careful in the way that we describe our August rainfall, just with the rain that we had the 31st into the 1st. I'll turn it over to you on that.
Yeah, that's the tricky situation we have all too often, it seems. Our observers, our wonderful volunteer observers for the CoCoRaHS program, also for the Weather Services co-op program, tend to take their precip observations and temperature for CoCoRaHS, just precip, at about 6 to 8 a.m. So on the 31st, they took their observations, empty their gauge if there was any rain in it, and it starts the clock for the next day when they go out there at 6 to 8 a.m. on August 1st. They find what fell in the last 24 hours and record it on August 1st. So when it rains after 8 a.m. on the last day of the month, it gets recorded officially as August rainfall in this case. And there was a lot of it that day. Now, sometimes it's not a lot or it's followed by a wet month. Well, it happened to be followed by a dry August. So it really sticks out this month. We're talking about this. If you include the last, the 1st of August reports in there in Ocean County, Manchester came in for the month at 6.31 inches, but 4.2 inches of that fell on the first, what's recorded on the first. And if you eliminate all the reports from the first, the wettest part of Ocean County, the wettest station, was actually in Lakewood with 3.23 inches. So that's, but I might add, the last day of June had rain that got counted in July. So everything's been shifted. Now
Right.
we'll see what happens on Sunday. I don't think there's going to be rain, so we won't be
Yeah.
faced with that issue as we go from August into September.
Yeah, thankfully, I don't think we have to worry about that. And hopefully in the future, we just always make sure it precipitates between like the 2nd and the 30th or the day before the last day of the month. And we'll
Well,
be good there.
I love to say it. The only thing worse than that is it rains on December.
Yeah,
It
that's
counts
true.
for the next year.
Yeah. 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 We don't want to get into that. I'm trying to think though. I mean, we have had a couple of New Year's Eves that have rained in recent
For sure.
memory too.
For sure.
Yeah.
Just a couple of
Um,
years ago, that's a heavy rain on New Year's evening, a New Year's Eve
yeah.
evening.
Yes. No, I remember that because I was in Asbury Park that night and it was pouring that night, and that everybody in my party was happy about that. Let's put it that way. Um, when it comes to drought, right? We have to talk about it a little bit. You mentioned it, but we do have part of North Jersey in drought right now. How like where are we in terms of going into the fall? I mean, does this remind you of last year when we had that record long dry streak? Is it something different? And I think my last point on this is, you've said before, drought's usually a multi-year thing. Are we still in that multi-year thing?
It's a great point. And sometimes you don't know until you're out of it and you can do a retrospective. Remember, we're southeastern Jersey, according to the Department of Environmental Protection, is still in a drought watch after last year's drought and early this year's drought warning because the groundwater has yet to fully come up to normal levels. So if you look at DEP, the only part of the state in any kind of a drought anything is the drought watch. And people say, oh, is the rest of the state going to get a drought watch? And I say, that's a remnant of last year. Meanwhile, you look up to the
Yeah.
north and the U.S. drought monitor has gone into D1 or modest, I call it modest drought, the first stage in drought. And a lot of North and Central Jersey and pockets of South Jersey are in D0, which is considered abnormally dry. That would be the lower part of Cape May. It would be a little bit of what eastern Gloucester, Camden County, but mostly it's from 195 northward. with a couple exceptions where they had some heavier rains in July to counter that. So there's some growing concern. Reservoir levels, stream flow, groundwaters are coming down. Last year, the drought actually started in South Jersey, and South Jersey missed out on heavy rains in the beginning of August, Hurricane Debbie remnants, for instance. So they missed out on that, and it started earlier. And this year it's the north that's drier, and the south is dry, but doing a little bit better.
Got it.
Uh, we need rain. That's what it comes down to. We're not no serious concerns yet. I think we're going to see D1 expand a little bit as if we don't see rain in the next days to a week or two. But yeah, let's hope. Last September was the third driest on record, and we all remember we were shut out of rain last October, the
Yeah.
driest of any month on record. Do we expect that to continue, to resume? No, not to that extreme. You asked a really great question. Was this wet May and wet July just a respite in a longer term drought situation, such as we had between 1998 and 2002, where we had Floyd interfere, if you will, in that? We don't know. We don't know yet. But I've never said we're totally out of drought in the longer term. We did on the U.S. Drought Monitor come out of drought fully and even abnormally dry conditions earlier this summer. But yeah, we'll see when we meet and talk next month.
We will see. And, I will say, I noticed this yesterday when I was driving to the Rutgers football game. A couple of those trees are changing. And I think that has something to do with the dry weather as well, if I'm correct.
Oh, it absolutely does. And my backyard river birch tree lost half of its leaves,
Yeah.
even with some dry July weather. Um, and I've seen tree leaf falls elsewhere around the region as well. And just was on a conference with someone from Cornell up in Ithaca yesterday, and they showed me a picture of leaves covering the ground outside their building up there. So they've been dry up that way as well. Actually, New England is has been warmer than us and drier than us. They're going down to D1 and D2 drought up in kind of the New Hampshire, southern Maine area right now. Conditions have worsened there more rapidly than here.
Hmm. All right. Good to know. All right, we have about 2 minutes left. I'm sorry I don't have more time, but I do want to get to the New Jersey or 2024 State of the Climate, which you were heavily involved in. What were some keynotes from that we could take away?
Yeah, we produced a report. It takes a while to pull it all together. It's available through the Rutgers Climate Change Resource Center. So if you just Google that, you can download the hard copy report and also link into an hour-long webinar we had that I think 500 people tuned into that
Wow.
2
Now I'm
weeks.
jealous I didn't get to go.
Yeah, yeah, but I've sent you the link to
You
listen.
did. I got it. I got it.
Um, I went through the top 10 list for last year. It was drought. It was continued warmth for New Jersey and globally. There was a little feature on Helene down in the southeast. And has New Jersey experienced something akin to that, or could it in the future? And the answer is yes and yes. Not necessarily to the magnitude, perhaps, but we look back on Connie and Diane, back-to-back flooding storms in 1955 that brought the Delaware to unprecedented levels, for instance. So there was a little bit on that, and some on causative mechanisms for the climate change that the Earth and New Jersey's experiencing. So if you want a little bit of a primer with a little focus on 2014, in my 10 minutes of the presentation at there, I also talked about the first half of this year and what had gone on with warmer temperatures early summer, some snow events last winter, coming out of the drought with a wet May. So yeah, if you've got a further interest, look it up.
I have both documents downloaded on my computer ready to be looked at. So I will be doing that. All right, we're going to wrap it up for our August monthly weather roundup. We thank Dr. Dave Robinson for being on here with us and chatting all about New Jersey in the month of August. You can check out more from him at njweather.org. That's where they have their Rutgers, New Jersey Weather Network stations all across the state reporting on almost everything: wind, temperature, dew point, humidity, etc., etc. We will be back with you at the end of September, early October, recapping our first month of climatological fall. Take care, everybody, and we'll talk with you soon.